Hi, good evening, friends. This is Huzefa Mungwala, Senior Partner of JHS and Associates LLP. Welcome to the JHS Excellencia session. This session is a very exciting session. It's on a very different topic, and we are very fortunate to have amongst us our expert faculty for the day, Mr. S. Ranganathan, who's a distinguished professional and actually does not need any elaborate introduction. Most of you would be knowing him or would have interacted with him in the past. He has had various stints in various capacities in the past. And let me quickly introduce Mr. Ranganathan before he takes charge of the session. Mr. Ranganathan is currently an independent director at Proventis Agrocom Limited and also Metropolis Healthcare Limited. He's also a board advisor at Revasa Farms Private Limited. This is his current engagement. By qualification, Mr. Ranganathan is a commerce and law graduate from the University of Mumbai, is a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, is a member of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India, and the Institute of Cost and Work Accountants of India. Very recently, he also did his post membership qualification in the area of corporate governance with the Institute of Company Secretaries of India, and he has also completed certification for independent directorship from the Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. Mr. Ranganathan, over the past 4 decades of his professional career, has been associated with a number of organizations, earlier in the manufacturing sector and later in the financial services industry. He has served as the country controller with Citibank and as the country chief financial officer with Bank of America in the past, before taking over the role as president and group CFO of Edelweiss Group of Companies. He superannuated last year as the managing director with the flagship NBFC group, Edelweiss Group. Currently, as an advisor with companies like Proventis, Agrocom, and Metropolis Healthcare as a non-executive director. He has been passionate about mentoring, about teaching the youngsters in the accounting profession, and has also taken keen interest in mentoring entrepreneurs, coaching and mentoring entrepreneurs in their startup journey. Mr. Ranganathan has an assorted interest other than work, participating in marathons over the last 15-20 years, a few international marathons as well to his credit, plays keyboard, takes interest in music, and wants to try his hands on drums as well, and voice on Carnatic vocal. Has trekked over the Everest base camp and has some more treks in his to-do list. So very interesting and exciting personality. Please welcome Mr. S. Ranganathan to start his session on handling failures. And I'm sure this is going to be a very interesting one for all of us. Also, I would request you to please follow the house rules of JHS Excellencia series. Please keep your mobile phones uh, uh, on plane mode, and I would request you to switch off your mics and ask questions turn by turn to Mr. Ranganathan. I'm sure that all of you are very interested and excited about this session today and have got number of questions to ask Mr. Ranganathan. So with this, I would invite Mr. Ranganathan to start his session. Mr. Ranganathan, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Josefa, and thank you all for attending this evening session on how to handle failures. Well, as Josefa did talk about my introduction, when Josefa approached me a couple of months back, I was going through the sessions relating to corporate governance with the Institute of Company Secretaries. And when he approached me, I thought that was the best thing to do because I had a project report ready on corporate governance and I could have straight away brought the presentation and started off here. But then Josefa didn't believe that that was the right thing to do. And so we have a very different kind of a subject that I'm going to be talking about. One is nothing to do with the academics, but generally how to handle failures, because failure is something which everyone amongst us is going to face, is facing every day in and day out. So it's very easy to celebrate success, but how do we handle failures? Because there are various layers in which you handle failures. There are various ways in which you respond to the failures. So it's very important that we understand what this is all about. Now, let me start with the presentation. Make this as interactive as possible because it's not something that I speak for about 45 minutes to an hour, and then we have a open it up for question and answer session. There's nothing right or wrong in my presentation, and each one of us would have gone through these experiences over a period of time. Each one would have reacted to a particular situation in a different way, and yet we would have all come out of it successfully. So therefore, I'm more than happy to stop me and share your experiences because that's what is going to make this presentation much more fulfilling. Well, you can use the chat box. There's a question and answer session to begin with. Can you identify this person on the slide? And I want you to answer me back. Huh? I hope all of you can hear me. They'll be able to chat me back. Okay.
Yeah, we all can hear you. Requesting everybody to use the chat mode to reply.
Please, yeah.
I think people have started responding, Mr. Ranganathan.
Oh, great. And where do I get to see? Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. Very
one
good,
is
very good.
Nitin Desai.
Yeah, very good. Keep going, keep going, keep going. We cannot identify. Very good. Okay. Oh, many of you are saying you can't identify this. This was a very famous. Yeah, there's a second one. Vivek Baid said it's Nitin Desai. Yeah. Now, the answer is right. Whoever has answered Nitin Desai is right. Now, why did Nitin Desai, why is he coming into our discussion today when we are talking about something different? Why is Nitin Desai coming? And please use chat, okay? I need to know that you're understanding. I'm speaking and you are able to hear me. So please use the chat as liberally as possible so that I also get a feedback from you. Okay, now why is this man coming into the picture today? Why are we talking about him? Why is he a man on the first slide that I have started? Yeah, many of them said, yes, he has defaulted on a loan, he has committed suicide, movies failed, and harassed from a loan given, right? Yeah. Can you? Okay, let's put it this way. Now, well, most of you have answered it right. Tell me, can you call him a failure? Let me bring the question together. Can you call him a failure? Somebody has said the movie failed. Yes, I'm getting notes. I'm getting yes. No, it's a very plain and simple question. Let's not complicate it. I want an answer, yes or no. Yeah. I'm getting more no as answers. Why would you not call it a, why would you say that he's not a failure? I'll tell you why he's not a failure. It's very important that we understand who this person is. He has created a state-of-art Indian cultural studio in a property which is sprawling into 43 acres of land near Mumbai. This is a place which celebrates Indian cinema. This is the place which celebrates Indian fans. This celebrates the Indian artists. This is a place where you have the majestic film sets and you can dress like a king. You can shake hands with the film stars of yesteryear. And every performance in that particular theater, every performance in that studio is mind-boggling. Now, having said that, I should also stop and tell you what this man has achieved. This man has got 10 awards in his life for art directorship and production design. 1942, the best art director, 1942, Love Story, 1995, Khamoshi, the musical, 1997, Devdas, 2003, National Award for the Best Art Direction, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar in 1998, Lagan in 2001, Hum Dil De Chuke Sanam in 1999, Devdas 2002, IIFA Best Art Director Award for Devdas in 2003, Om Shanti Om 2008, and Yoda Akbar in 2009. So that is the kind of an achievement that he had. But what happened in the end? Somebody has written that, yes, he committed suicide. Now, assuming the two parts are different, the achievements that this person had and the kind of end that he has got, largely, some of you have even written that he has failed. Let's go to the next person. He is a man, which is a story which is 100-year old. Nitin Desai, of course, is something which is about half a year old. But this is a man who was there 100 years back, a man who was instrumental for the World War II, with all his problems, with all the genocides and the man killing that he has done. One thing which is very certain is he is responsible for getting Germany the place of honor that it has in the European Union today. Even 100 years after the World War II, if Germany is leading the pack in Europe, I guess this man is responsible. But what is he saying? Again, he himself is admitting to the fact that I want to escape the disgrace. So that's the reason why I want to commit suicide. So he's the second person. Let's look at this image. Can you talk about this image? Can you identify this image? Come on, yes. We talked about two persons. One was Nitin Desai, the other one was Adolf Hitler. Yeah. Very good, very good. You've all written Chandrayaan. Now let me just go. This is, to be very specific, this is Chandrayaan 2. Let's look at Chandrayaan 2. I don't want to get into the details of it. This is a mission that was launched by India as a second lunar exploration, and it was to touch the southern pole of Moon somewhere in September 2019. Within 500 meters of the surface of the Moon, it crash landed and the mission was failure. They looked at the various reasons for the failure and said that the navigation and the guidance anomalies, there was communication breakdown, altitude anomalies and software flaws and all of that. And let's go to the next one. This was a failure? Yes, I would say it was a failure. Failure in that sense, let's now come to the subject. It's so personal in nature. It is very subjective. It can mean, a failure can mean different things to different people. I may feel that something which is not achieved is a failure. However, the definition of failure itself says that inability to achieve one's goals or desires. You plan a particular thing, you want a particular thing to happen, and if it doesn't happen, and if you don't achieve that particular goal, you don't achieve that particular performance, you call it a failure. It is as simple as that. It can be a very, very small thing in your life where you wanted to go in, and reach from this part of Mumbai to the other part of Mumbai. You delay in reaching that particular place, or you don't reach because of various reasons. That is a failure. And a Chandrayaan 2 not touching the surface of the Moon is also a failure. What it is you have created something that you want to do it and you're not capable, or you're unable to create that, you're unable to touch that goal, is called a failure. Now let's look at what happens. Generally, you take things to heart. A failure is something which very easily a person takes it to his own self, that I have failed. Instead of an event being failed, they generally take it to yourself, and there's a perception that gets created that I am inadequate. I am inferior to all. Why did I fail? I failed because I could not do it. I was inferior. I was not prepared for it. I couldn't do it. So it generally, any kind of failure gets into the area of inadequacy, or मेरे में कुछ कमियां रह गई है. That is what one internalizes it as personal. It leads to the next level. It leads to next level of negative emotions like disappointment, frustration, anger, sadness. These are all various words. I could use about half a dozen English words, but you can keep on using any kind of English language to say that these are all cousins of disappointment, cousins of failure. In extreme cases where you take it personally, you generally tend to have suicidal thoughts and actions, and we'll talk about it much later. Failure is never absolute. It's always in relation to something. Because when I said what is failure, failure is something which you could not achieve. You had desired, you wanted to do, you planned to do, and you didn't get. So there's always a comparison. So a failure doesn't stand on its own. It's always a result of expectation. It is expectation. So whenever you expect a particular thing to happen, and if it doesn't happen, that is termed as failure. So a failure is not absolute, it's always relative. Now, when we are talking about relativity and subjectivity, I want to show you one slide which explains everything. Whatever I have spoken in the last 3 slides, this slide explains to you so well. Here is a person who has got 3rd rank or whatever it is, 3rd level. He's so happy that he has achieved something. He is responsible, or he is going to the podium. He is showing his hands and says that here I have done something in life. At the same time, a person who has secured first, he's crying. So, which is what I was trying to, and his expectations would be very different. This man, this chap is very happy with his 3rd rank, but this fellow wanted something more than even first rank. So that's what is relative, that's what is subjective all about. This man is not even happy when he has secured a first rank, and this fellow seems to be damn happy about his 3rd rank. So this slide is very impressive, and I want to carry this back. Okay, very quickly, some of the problems. What could be the reasons for failure, and why could it lead to negative impact? And gentlemen, again, reminder, please send chatting messages. If you want me to go slow, go fast, stop, whatever it is, and address any of your questions, please feel free to use the chat. Okay, now there are some people who are generally with a low self-esteem, with generally their self-worth is relatively low, and there's such. There could be reasons for that. We'll come to that. And what they do is they generally identify themselves, or they value themselves based on their performance, on their achievements. अगर ये हो गया तो मैं अच्छा होगा. अगर ये नहीं होगा तो I'm not so good. So generally they fall prey to that and try to maintain. They want to appease people. They want to make themselves look good to themselves. They want others to look good at themselves. When they fail, what happens is generally they are very quick to take themselves personally, and they say that they are worthless, they are hopeless, they are disastrous, and they are undeserving of happiness. This is a very important statement. Undeserving of happiness. People say कि ये तो हुआ नहीं, अभी मेरे को रह के क्या यूज है, और मैं खुशी कैसे मनाऊं जब भी मेरा ये हो गया है. So how does one become happy even when there is a failure? Or there are some people who fail for minor things in life, and they deprive themselves of the happiness which otherwise they should have enjoyed it. So they make, and therefore they blame themselves for this, and they call themselves worthless, and they make themselves more vulnerable to these kind of extreme steps. Then there are, because of failures and because of these kind of behaviors, there are people who go into depression, mental disorders, anxiety, all these things. And when you get into a situation of anxiety, what happens is there are some people who cannot even take positive feedback. They shut themselves out. They're not able to solve their own stress related problems. Forget about solving your own stress related problems. You can't even go, you don't even want to approach others to help you. So those are some of the, and that leads to hopelessness, etc., etc. Then some of the people also tend to take up substances to bring down the use. When I talk about substances, I'm talking about drugs and all of that. When they take to come out of the situation, just to forget the situation, forget the stress situation, let's come out of it through the use of drugs and alcohol. Now, that may give you a temporary relief, but eventually that leads to person's judgment. When you it impairs the person's judgment to use the right kind of things, and eventually this compounds the problem of one's anxiety and disappointment. Lastly, a failure may result in the loss or loss of important aspects in one's life, such as relationship. You spoil the relationship. When you do that, you spoil the relations with you, and you find that you're not able to handle money, you're not able to handle your freedom that you have, the reputation that you have. So these are all cascading effects of how you've not been able to handle failures. I have not used the word purposely, not used the word suicide, because somebody who read my presentation said, you're making it all the more depressing for people who are sitting in the room or listening to your presentation. So I said, let me not use the word suicide. But having said that, there's all suicide. Every year, about 7 lakh, little over 7 lakh people end their life. India accounts for almost about 20-25% of that. 1,65,000 people every year. And this is the statistics which is starting from 2000. I had kept a statistics of about from 2000 2001. About 7 lakh people commit suicide. And it's safe to assume that for every committed suicide, there are 20 failed suicide attempts. So almost 7 lakh multiplied by 20 is the total number of people who have attempted, succeeded, and failed to commit suicide. But they all want to end their life. Some statistics, suicides generally happen in the age group of 15 to 29. More than 3/4 of the population is from the lower and middle income group. There's a very strong linkage between suicide and mental disorders like depression, alcohol, drug, otherwise vulnerable groups, sense of isolation. Now, all these things, let me call it failures. Alcohol use, depression, all of that are result of failure. So there's a large amount of correlation, a fairly strong correlation between failures and suicide. Then again, suicides generally happen in impulsively. Nobody plans a suicide. Okay, I'm going to commit suicide in the year 2026 around Diwali time. Nobody does that. It's impulsive. A depression moment happens, a failure moment happens, and then you commit suicide immediately. So it's very impulsive. It's not planned. So these are some of the figures. Now, again, I was looking at these numbers, and the reason why I'm putting these numbers was somebody told me that since you're talking to a group of chartered accountants, numbers or statistics का होना बहुत जरूरी है. Otherwise, chartered accountants don't believe in any facts which are not supported by figures. So I said, let me add this. I've added one more thing. Actually, this is the slide which prompted me. I read in some magazine or some WhatsApp group. This slide, what are you able to see? Okay, okay, sorry. So this is the slide which prompted me to take up this particular assignment and talk about it. We have talked about suicide, which is the end of life. Here is a table which is very interesting. I wanted to spend a couple of minutes on this slide. Across the world, and in the table I have given you, I have picked up 20 countries out of a possible 150, 160 countries in the world. 100 million people or 10 crore people are in some form of antidepressant. Globally, and when I'm talking about antidepressants, I'm talking about prescribed antidepressants. As a doctor has prescribed an antidepressant to a particular patient. So you can multiply it by any number, whatever you think fit, to understand how many don't go to the doctor and self-medicated. Globally, 28 crores or 280 million people are estimated to suffer from depression. That's about 4% of the world population is today suffering from some kind of depression. These depressions usually would be a result of some kind of failures. Market size for antidepressants grew from 17 billion US dollars to 17.2 billion US dollars to 18 billion dollars in just a matter of 1 year. And it is projected to grow to 22 billion by the year 2028 with a whopping CAGR of 3.5%. So this is what, now is it safe to assume that the previous slide that you saw is a subset of this particular slide? Many of the people in the advanced stages of antidepressants go into the previous slide. It's fair, I think it's safe to assume that way. So my question is, this is the kind of population which needs some kind of a repair, some kind of a redressal. We need to address this particular market, which is 280 million people. And these are all statistics which are come from, I've not cooked up these numbers, these are all authentic numbers of people using antidepressants. And actually, this is the statement, this is the table that prompted me to go in for this particular subject to talk about. Not a very important slide here, but let me just put it here. I've just tried to put the various classification of broken down into business failures, which could be loss of business, losses in your profit and loss account, bankruptcy, insolvency, scandals, employee related, then regulatory breaches. So these are some of the you have not missed some deadlines, consistent missing of deadlines. So these are all business failures. At the same time, at an individual level also, there are failures that could happen, which could be a personal failures or a professional failures. Personal failures could be family and relationship related. There could be mental or physical health. Somebody who's consistently always physically not working well in the family. Something is happening to their physical health always at all points in time. He feels depressed. Why should we live? So you get to that particular stage. Then there is a physical as well as mental health will be issues. Then there could be grief on account of loss of a close ones. Then financial losses is again one more personal reasons why there could be personal failures. At the same time, you will have professional failures also. When you come to office, you miss a target. You are expected to do something. You target to do a particular thing on a particular day. That doesn't happen. That's also a failure. Your boss is expecting you to do a particular thing. That doesn't happen. That's a failure. You expect a promotion from your boss. You expect a particular level of increment from your boss. So now these are all failures. When you don't get that, these are failures. So there are professional failures, there are personal failures in your individual life. At the same time, there are business failures in the business life. Low on evaluation, bad performance review. Your boss says कि तुमने ठीक किया नहीं है ये साल. That's it. I mean, we all can reflect on this. ऐसा अपने लाइफ में रोज होता है. Everything happens to us. Every termination of a job, losing a client, ये सबके लाइफ में हमेशा होता ही रहता है. Let's talk about from here. I think it's going to be a very serious thing. Again, when you fail in a particular thing, what happens? If you fail, you think about it that मैं fail हो गया. I wanted to achieve A, but I didn't go to achieve A. I fell short of A. There is some element of unhappiness. You become sad. Obviously, you're not expected to be very happy if you don't achieve your targets, but you move on. That's a normal way of behavior. But this very important thing, which, as I told you, failure is always associated with something which makes you shame. You believe that I have not accomplished, it's a shortcoming with me, it's my inferiority complex. And then what happens? This is what you think. लोग क्या कहेंगे मेरे बारे में? To a certain extent, I'm responsible for myself. To a certain extent, I also believe ये ठीक नहीं हुआ है. But more, I think people will shame me. What will people think about me that I couldn't do this? मेरा स्टैंडर्ड क्या हो गया सामने? लोग मेरे बारे में क्या बोलेंगे? लोग मेरे बारे में क्या सोचेंगे? That is what is propelling me. That is what I react to a particular situation. Why does this happen? Generally, people who are bullied at a very young age. There are people at home, there are people in the school, college, teachers, सब लोग रहते हैं. They keep on telling कि ये तेरे से नहीं हो पाएगा, तू ये नहीं कर पाएगा. Physical, ये शायद तेरे से नहीं होगा. So what happens is you kind of build a sense of diffidence. You build a sense of not worthy of it. You are not worthy of it. You are not capable of it. That kind of things keep happening in some families. Now, what happens is that leaves a very bad impact on you in a very early age of your life. And that sort of keeps on becoming more bigger and bigger. It gets magnified over a period of time. You become more and more miserable. You become more and more insecure in your life. You also start believing. मेरे डैडी ने बोले जा रहे थे कि तू ये नहीं कर पाएगा, तू ये नहीं कर पाएगा. 2 साल के बाद मैं खुद बोलने शुरू कर दिया कि मेरे से ये नहीं हो पाएगा. So what happens is this is the kind of thing that I inherited within the family, within my school, within my community, within my friend circle, and therefore I started believing it, and it has left a lasting impression, lasting experience with me over a period of time, leading to I criticizing myself. I have become my best critic. I become and I hate myself. And therefore, my self-esteem is coming down rapidly. एक तो मेरे family ने लेके आया नीचे और उसके बाद I am also propelling that to bring it down. Look at it this way. How it is easy to censure oneself. कुछ गलती हो गया, so हम अपने आप को गाली देने के लिए कितने जल्दी आ जाते हैं. अरे तू ये कर देता तो अच्छा होता, तू वो कर देता तो अच्छा होता, ये क्यों नहीं किया है? But how difficult it is to compliment somebody, compliment oneself, forget about compliment others. How difficult it is to compliment. Have you ever complimented yourself? Yeah, मैंने अच्छा काम किया. Hardly you will do that. But वही अपने आप को कोसना, अपने आप को गाली देना, तुम रोज करते जा रहे हैं, दिन में 4 बार करते जा रहे हैं. So it's always good that you just reverse the order and make it sure that you compliment yourself for that. We talked about the shame and failure on the failure part. How many times in your life have we done something because of fear? ये डर लगता है इसलिए हम नहीं करते हैं. As simple as कॉलेज में किसी को डेट पे बुलाना, क्यों नहीं करते हम? We want to do it. We have followed the girl through the classes 9th, 10th, 11th, but somehow there's this fear. We don't go the extra step. How many times you wanted to tell your parents that I don't want to do commerce? मुझे बनना है क्या? Captain in a ship. I want to become a pilot. I want to become a chef. How many times we believe that if there's a failure, I have to fall back on my parents. So therefore, you don't do a particular thing. Yes, sir, all these things are nothing but fear, shame of failure. If I become a chef and if I don't become a good chef, I have to go back to my dad, and who will say that shame, मैं तेरे तभी बोल रहा था बीकॉम कर ले. How do I face my dad at that point in time? So these are characters by shame is an emotion where one feels worthless, one feels humiliated, and it also is very important. It also restricts your ability to take risks in your life. You sort of go with the flow rather than taking the tide as it is. Now, always remember failure is a normal part of learning process. It's always you have to learn from your failures and keep moving forward. There's something called a good term called atissiophobia. You can write it on the chat box, and it means an intense fear of failure. I'm just writing it down. You can ATY. ATY. This is the word. You can go and Google it whenever you have time. But this, okay. Now again, now I have spoken a lot. Now it's homework for you. Okay, come on, let's start. Keep your fingers on the chat box. Jaldi. Yeah, come on, come on. Yes. Right, right. Naam. Okay. His name, yes. Somebody's coming out. Somebody. Josefa Kaka. Come on. Yes, very good. His name is Vijay Siddharth. What was he? Again, for want of time, let me very quickly go. He's a founder of, somebody has written it rightly, that he's a founder of Cafe Coffee Day. He was a master's in economics from the Bangalore University, started his business at the age of 21, went on to make Cafe Coffee Day. The culture of coffee in India was brought by him. He made that all youngsters come together in a particular place. The very concept that Starbucks started, he brought it in India in 1996. He had, when he was there alive, he had about we had about 1,700 coffees across India with anywhere between 40,000 to 50,000 visitors every week. After that, he went on to expand his business into Mindtree, IT services, Way to Wealth, and several other companies. Okay, what happened to him? What happened to him? Come on, chat box. Yeah, Vivek, bye. That's it. Good. One fine morning, he disappears from the scene with a note to his board of directors saying, I have failed. And as Vivek rightly says, he committed suicide. His body was found after some 40 hours or so. So what happened? He committed suicide. Did he fail? My guess is yes. At least the people in the room seem to tell me that he failed. For that matter, he himself has confessed that I have failed. So there's no judgment required from our side. He himself in the letter to his board of directors says that I have failed. I'm sorry about it. And who is this lady next to him? Come on. Yeah. Amisha Solanki, right? You're right. His wife. Her name is Malvika Hegde. What did she do? She inherited all the coffee day that he had. She had a commitment to fulfill his husband's dream. She took bold steps to bring down the debts from 7,000 crores at the time when he left in 2020 to roughly about 465 crores in 2023. She partnered with Blackstone and Shriram Credit. She did a lot of downsizing of channels, closed down several outlets which were not performing, spoke individually to the workforce. She had something like about 25,000 people working, and she gave them the confidence and assurance and got their confidence in turn. And in the face of extreme business adversity, she has brought it back. And my guess is, I'm not too sure, but she got some Indian Woman Entrepreneur of the Year or something. Okay. Now, so that is what it is. Why did she do? What did she do that she could do, and why he couldn't? Any answers? He was full of repute. He was a person who got it up here. He was a person who was so admired and popular in his field. How could he fail? The sense of fear. How could he face the people and say that I am not able to repay your debts? Whereas with this lady, with 2 young children, husband gone, and a debt of 7,000 crores on her head, she had nothing to lose. There was no fear at all for her. What more failure can you have when you inherit this? इससे बुरा तो कुछ हो ही नहीं सकता. That is where she got into. So that's what makes her a very different person than what he was. All these things, what you can see on the slide, everything that she has done, I'm sure he could have done it. He could have done it much better because he was much more in the business and much more prolific in that sense. So he could have done it much better. But she did it because there was no fear. There was nothing to fail. Na pura to fail ho hi gaya abhi, aur kya fail hona? Okay. Very quickly, the benefits of failure. That learning to handle makes you more resilient. You start off in a much more sense, which is you think patiently. मेरे से क्या गलती हुआ है and how I can correct it. You start off from behind and you bounce back with various challenges and setbacks. Not only that, you become self-aware of your own strengths. मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ? And you set up targets which are much more pragmatic and practical than something which you set up a target which is you are not able to achieve, which you cannot achieve. And then you fail there and you call yourself a failure. No, you set up targets which are much more practicable, much more achievable in that sense, and therefore you can reset it. That's the biggest advantage or a benefit of failure. Failure can motivate you to work harder. That will prop you to work harder. I want you to look at these two. This is J.K. Rowling, and this is a speech that she has given to the graduates in the Harvard Business School, the graduates who had come out. It's an 18-minute speech, and at the end of my session today, if you can go back to your house and look at the entire video. I have seen this video about 5 times in my life. I would encourage people who have seen it, very good. People who have not seen it, I encourage you to go home and see this slide, this piece, which is 18 to 20 minutes. And that if you do that, that itself makes me happy. I'll be happy if you do that. That's all. Even if you don't carry anything today.
On an epic scale. An exceptionally short-lived marriage had imploded, and I was jobless, a lone parent, and as poor as it is possible to be in modern Britain without being homeless. The fears that my parents had had for me and that I had had for myself had both come to pass. And by every usual standard, I was the biggest failure I knew. Now, I'm not going to stand here and tell you that failure is fun. That period of my life was a dark one, and I had no idea that there was going to be what the press has since represented as a kind of fairy tale resolution. I had no idea then how far the tunnel extended, and for a long time, any light at the end of it was a hope rather than a reality. So why do I talk about the benefits of failure? Simply because failure meant a stripping away of the inessential. I stopped pretending to myself that I was anything other than what I was, and began to direct all my energy into finishing the only work that mattered to me. Had I really succeeded at anything else, I might never have found the determination to succeed in the one arena where I believed I truly belonged. I was set free because my greatest fear had been realized, and I was still alive, and I still had a daughter whom I adored, and I had an old typewriter and a big idea. And so rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life. You might never fail on the scale I did, but some failure in life is inevitable. It is impossible to live without failing at something, unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you fail by default. Failure gave me an inner security that I had never attained by passing examinations. Failure taught me things about myself that I could have learned no other way. I discovered that I had a strong will and more discipline than I had suspected. I also found out that I had friends whose value was truly above the price of rubies. The knowledge that you have emerged wiser and stronger from setbacks means that you are, ever after, secure in your ability to survive. You will never truly know yourself or the strength of your relationships until both have been tested by adversity. Such knowledge is a true gift.
First in sports or in studies is always tense about coming first. Even if he comes second, he feels that he has demoted himself. But a person who has come 59th can always come 48th, 37th, 23 or 16th. So do me a favor, next time come 49th in the class. And then he said something very nice. He said, remember, failure is an event, never a person. So for a 15-year-old boy, to take away the fear of failure was, I think, amazing.
Things that have worked in case of failures. One is we heard J.K. Rowling talking about talk to somebody. Let there be a mentor, let there be a counselor who will be able to help you out. In the case of Anupam Kher, it was his dad. He went to him, and that's a kind of feedback that you get. That's a kind of help that you get from a mentor, from a. So just spell it out. Give yourself time. People react to the grief in different ways. कोई बाल नोच लाता है, कोई सर पटक के मारता है, कोई रोने लग जाता है, कोई हंसने लग जाता है. Let those emotions come out. Give time, give yourself time to feel that all the disappointment, the anger, the sadness, let everything come out. You come in terms with your failure. You come in terms with something which you believe that I wanted to do this, I could not do this. Fine. Get thereafter, listen to your self-talk. Whatever your mind says, just listen to that. Take the next step forward, set realistic goals, make it pragmatic. We just talked about it. Achievable goals, make achievable goals, break it into pieces. And get the next one is don't compare yourself. This is a very important thing. he comes first and therefore I should also come first. If Anupam Kher's dad would have said that, there was surely when he was 59th, there was somebody who was first, second, third. His father never compared him with those people. Don't compare yourself. As I heard one Gaur Gopal Das saying that तुम्हारा question paper और उसका question paper अलग है, उसको copy मत करो. When you copy it, both of you fail. Because your question papers are very different. So your situation is very different from his. Similarly, a failure is not an end, it's only a stepping stone to the path to success. Again, not a very important slide. I'm just talking about catastrophic thinking. Catastrophic thinking is something which you fear something which is much more than what it is. I mean, it could be a small failure, but there are some people who think a lot about it. They magnify their feelings and emotions about it. ये हो जाएगा तो क्या? ये हो जाएगा तो क्या? I mean, try to bring it down. Those are people who are called catastrophic thinking, and it leads to anxiety disorders, depression, post-traumatic stress, etc., etc. Preparing yourself. I'm not a propounder of meditation or vipassana, but people have said that those who bring about control in the emotions through any means, through any of the physical activities or mental activities, which could be meditation, mindfulness, breathing exercises, it is said to be helpful a lot for them. A psychiatrist's view, the human body is made in such a way that it can handle all kinds of adversity. आप किसी को पानी में फेंक दो, वो तब तक नहीं मरेगा जब तक उसे पूरी कोशिश नहीं की हो जीने के लिए. And it's true for everybody. So the human body is made to fight every kind of adversity that somebody is facing. So therefore, make use of that. Don't give in to failures very easily. Again, there's something called optimism and gratitude. The combined effect of optimism and gratitude is resilience. Build resilience. That's how you can fight failure. What is optimism? Every one of us is optimistic. Why do we come to office? We come to office because we believe there is a promotion waiting for us next year. There is an increment waiting for us next year. There will be growth waiting for me next year. That's what is optimism all about. Why every businessman on this planet believes that uska kal means I'm talking about tomorrow. Tomorrow's billing will be better than yesterday's billing. That's what is growth all about. Everybody believes that is going to happen. So that's what is optimism all about. Gratitude is something which you have to thank people. Learn to thank people. There is always, आदमी कितना भी बुरा हो, उसमें दो चीज अच्छे तुमको जरूर मिल जाएंगे. Appreciate that. Every failure that you undergo will leave you with at least one learning, which is to be carried forward to the next stage. So that's what is gratitude all about. Situation is not as important in the manner in which सब fail होते हैं, but there are some people who start taking out the book and study well for the next exams. And then there are people who commit suicide based on a particular situation. So the situation has remained the same, but how you react to a particular situation is as important or much more important than the situation itself. How a person reacts to it. Is he taking a failure as a positive kick? Is he remedifying himself? Is he doing all those things that we have learned in the last few slides? Or he's doing something very different? Reflect on the event after a few days. Go back to the same event after a few days. You will realize that it was not an event at all. Hang on. I remember my own case. SSC mein, I mean, I'm talking about good old days of mine. 75% mil jaye to it was considered distinction and you have arrived in life. I lost this 75% mark by about 3 or 4 marks. It was 74 point something. Now I felt bad because many of my Many of my friends who were traveling with me, we were taking the same bus, they got 75 and I was 74 point something. Look at it this way, 40 years down the line, is that relevant at all? उस दिन बहुत रोया था. 1980, 79 बहुत रोया था because of 4 mark कम मिले थे. Is it an event at all today? Does it make any sense for me to brooding on what happened? It was a no-brainer at all. It was not relevant at all. So I'm not saying that you should look at it 40 years down the line. Even a particular situation, look at it after 1 week. You will realize that jo ho gaya, so ho gaya, aage badhte hain. So just don't bother about it. Just reflect and you will realize that kitna immaterial that situation was. You shouldn't have reacted in that particular fashion at all. And lastly, turn to the occult. कुछ नहीं होता है, भगवान के ऊपर छोड़ दो उसके ऊपर. It could be Bhagwan, it could be your own parents, dead or alive. बोलो भैया, I have not gotten into this situation because of me. You have brought me into this situation, so you take me out of this situation. That's it. छोड़ दो, अपने आप ठीक हो जाएगा. The situation, the event will pass in your life and it will become a non-event in your life. That's what is failure. That's how you overcome your failure. Last few slides. This is Chandrayaan again. I want you to go back to this. And we were talking about the counselor. What is this man doing here? What is this? This is when the Chandrayaan 2 happened, and this particular picture keeps coming in the WhatsApp group even these days. What is this? What is he doing? We heard J.K. Rowling, you heard me talk, you heard Anupam Kher talk. What is this man doing? He is just lending his shoulder for the other person to cry on. What is he doing? He's the counselor. He is the mentor. वो बोल रहा है, आजा बेटा, मैं लेता हूं. Whatever you have done, I will handle. Don't worry. सब ठीक हो जाएगा. So that is the comfort which this man is providing to the other. So let's try and see if we can act as him. For us, the universe is there. You saw in one of the slides. What is the population that we have? 280 million people. जो आज antidepressant में है. Can we act as a mentor for one such person? See the narrative. There, it was the same thing which I wrote there, but there I had highlighted the fact leading to the failure of the mission. Here I am highlighting the fact that we are putting into action a plan so that we can go ahead. Baki pura English, whatever is there in slide number 5 or 6, wherever we saw, the same language continues. But what I have highlighted there is very different from what I'm highlighting now. You can read it. If you can read it, well and good. And here a boy picks up from the beach shellfish and throws it back into the sea. A man says, what are you doing? I'm just throwing the shellfish back into the sea because if it comes on the beach, the shellfish will die because it has been blown into the beach. He says the beach is so long and there are so many shellfish on the road, on the beach. He just picks up and throws it back and says, at least it will make a difference for one. We have time for a couple of more ones.
we have to handle the failures with stout heart. Professor Stalin said, yes, it's a failure. First time you launched, gained a lot of system and
Studying in 10th standard, my name is Gayatri Mohan. So my question.
exactly at T minus 8 minutes, computer took over. And then at T minus 4 minutes, computer put a hold. It says don't launch. Within few seconds, instead of putting the satellite in the orbit, the whole system went to Bay of Bengal. So it was a failure. And then how do you handle a failure? It's very important for entrepreneurs. Life is not so simple. We have to handle the failures with stout heart. Professor Stalin said, yes, it's a failure. First time you launched, you gained a lot of system, and definitely we will succeed. I'll give all the support to my technologies. I'll give all the supports to my scientists. We will succeed in a year's time, he said. Friends, did you observe what happened there? I am the mission director. I am the project director. I have failed the missions. With me, 5,000 people have worked. But chairman, Indian Space Research Organization, he took the responsibility of the failure. He completely switched my failure to his failure. This is the leadership quality. Exactly.
Now I have I'm audible, right? I wanted to conclude this by summarizing all the points that I have talked about in the last 10 or 12 slides. But I thought instead of I doing it, somebody else who have captured all those things that I have spoken in a beautiful speech and which has left the audience speechless. I'll allow her to do that.
Always remember one thing. On the road to success, there is always we, not me. Do not think that you alone can achieve things. No. There is always another person who is standing behind you, maybe not coming on the forefront, but behind you, praying for you and supporting you. Never lose that person. Never. You know what? We human beings have a problem. Out of many problems, there is one more, and this is self-created one. We always expect ease from life. We have this amazing fantasy about life. This is how things should work. This is my plan. It should go as per my plan. If that doesn't happen, we give up. So my dear friends, let me tell you one thing. I never wanted to be on the wheelchair. Never thought of being on the wheelchair. I was always aspiring to do bigger things, but had no idea that for that I have to pay the price to be where I am today. It's a very heavy price. This life is a test and a trial, and tests are trials are never supposed to be easy. So when you are expecting ease from life, and life gives you lemons, then you make the lemonade, and then do not blame life for that, because you were expecting ease from a trial. Trials make you a stronger, better person. Life is a trial. Every time you realize that. It is okay to be scared. It is okay to cry. Everything is okay, but giving up should not be an option. They always say that failure is not an option. Failure should be an option, because when you fail, you get up, and then you fail, and then you get up, and that keeps you going. That's how humans are strong. Failure is an option, should be an option, but giving up is not. Never. We have this thing in minds. We call it perfection. We want everything perfect. We want ourselves to be perfect. There is this image in our head about everything. Perfect life, perfect relationships, perfect career, perfect amount of money that we need to earn no matter what. Nothing is perfect in this world. We all are perfectly imperfect, and that is perfectly all right. That's all right. In all those imperfections, you have to listen to your heart. You don't have to look good for people. You don't have to be perfect just because other people want you to be perfect. If your soul is perfect from within, that's all right. This is all what you want. This is all what you need to be. Do you know what makes you perfect? When you make someone smile. You know what makes you perfect? When you try to do something good for the people around you. You know what makes you perfect? When you feel someone's pain. And how beautiful pain is that it connects you with people. No other medium can connect you with others but pain. That's why I always say that I'm in pain, and that's a blessing in disguise for me.
Well, that's it from me. I'm able to hear you. Okay. That's it from me. And there are two questions that I have on the chat. How do you respond when a failure occurs due to circumstances beyond our control, such as external factors and unavoidable events? Well, what I was been talking about for the last hour or so is how do you react to a particular situation? When you yourself have acknowledged the fact that these are external factors that have led to this unavoidable situation, and that's where you have failed or you have not achieved what you planned to achieve. That's all the more reason you can straight away go ahead and remove the fact, remove the guilt that you may have that it is because of me. You can, there has to be less shame on yourself. You can less shame yourself because anyway, this was beyond your control. And going forward, if you have already know that this is beyond the control of yours, is because of unavoidable circumstances, then even when you planned it, even when you set out to achieve that particular target, you could have anticipated that and set your targets in a much more achievable and much more pragmatic manner. What circumstances do we have to face if we don't have handle failure properly and in time? Yes, we spoke all about it. If you're not able to handle failure properly, the first sense is you start censuring yourself. You start blaming yourself. You go down and down the ladder of self-esteem. You start hating yourself. You feel guilty and you start blaming yourself for a wrong thing that has happened or a failure that has happened. The next thing is it starts impacting your mental health and physical health. You become less and less wanted by people around you. You start hating people. People start hating you. You're going into a stream of stress related things, etc. And eventually we did talk about extreme steps like alcohol or drugs, and thereafter getting into antidepressants and suicides. So those are the sequence of events. Of course, it's not set that these are to be the sequence of events. We also saw in suicides that it is impulsive. You don't have to go through all this process. You can straight away get into suicide mode. But I'm saying that let's try and prepare ourselves for this rather than thinking about what can happen if we fail and if we don't handle the situation properly. Is failure solely an outcome of one second. It's Is failure solely an outcome of insufficient effort, or can it still occur despite giving absolute best? Yes, it can give you absolute. No, it is a function of effort and luck, inspiration and perspiration. So if either of them is zero, the answer is zero. So it's not necessarily insufficient effort. You would have put all efforts, but yet you may be unlucky not to achieve it. Just put it as one bad day in your life. If you have put in all the efforts, you have done it exactly what is expected to do. Let's look at, I mean, we are all most of us, as Josefa says, are all CA students. I doubt if anybody goes to the exam halls without preparation. Everybody prepares himself at most to get it cleared. But how many get cleared? Now, will you say that it was insufficient effort, insufficient preparation? I wouldn't say. It was just a bad day, one bad day in your life that you landed up in the examination hall. Just get up the next day and everything is fine. We know in the journey of success, failure will be one part we have to face. Yeah. We are ready for it, but it is still quite difficult for an individual to accept the failure. Why is it so difficult to mentally prepare oneself? Yes. Why is it very? Because people generally, as I mentioned, one of the things that I mentioned was the human mind is such. It's so very easy to talk ill about ourselves, to blame ourselves, but it's very difficult to compliment ourselves. Our human mind always fears failure. We have been attuned in such a way that we generally are slightly hesitant in celebrating success, but we are very happy to censure ourselves when there is a failure. Which also means that mentally preparing ourselves is a conscious effort that we have to do to handle failure, which is the reason why I said that some kind of a mental strength is required here. And to add to that, if we have a good friend, a friend who can stand up. I mean, we have seen that in all the slides. There's a common theme that came out, that there is a Muniba talked about it, J.K. Rowling talked about it. We have seen our Prime Minister doing it. There was somebody standing who could say that, hey, koi baat nahi hai, ho gaya, aage badho. In variety of words. There's somebody standing as a pillar saying that ye to chote si baat hai, aage badho. Let's move on in life. So we need that. We need to develop that kind of a close relationship with friends. Somebody who can be a mentor, who can be your parents, who can be friends, who can be office goer, koi bhi hoga. It could be your life partner, it could be a companion, whatever it is. You need somebody who can stand up and say that koi baat nahi hai. How to come out of a cycle of repeated failures? Now, this is a very interesting question. I would strongly urge that kind of a person to approach really a psychiatrist. I mean, of course, I'm not a person qualified for that. It might need some kind of a medical intervention to handle that kind of a cycle of repeated failure. I can understand one kind of a failure, and because we all undergo failures every day, day in and day out. Okay, some of them are serious enough for us to ponder over a particular period of time. Others are okay, you just tried and you didn't get it. But there are some things which you prod and look at it back, look back at a particular event and see what you have learned from that. But if it is a type of a cycle, then it might need a medical intervention. After failure, how can you prepare yourself to take responsibility and work towards rectifying the situation? What did J.K. Rowling do? What did Malvika Hegde do? All I want you to is, what did we do in Chandrayaan 2, 3? Chandrayaan 2 failed. Chandrayaan 3, ho gaya. We were successful. What did we do? The same thing. How to prepare our coming generation to understand failures of life and make them understand as a stepping stone for future success. That's our responsibility. That's our responsibility. I'm sure my dad wouldn't have taught me how to handle failures. My dad didn't teach me this, but I'm in a much better position to tell my children how to handle failures, how to come out of it. And I'm sure my children will be able to do much better than what I did. So 30 years from today, my daughter might be speaking of much better things in life about how to rear children and how to make failure a part of life and move forward. I think it's our responsibility. As I mentioned to you, just take the responsibility. There are 280 people, registered people, who need our help. हम एक को कंधा दे सकते हैं ना, एक को तो कंधा दे ही सकते हैं भैया, तू आके रोज मेरे कंधे पर, सब ठीक हो जाएगा, एक को तो बोल ही सकते हैं अपन. To what extent do external situation and one's environment play a role in influencing the likelihood of failure? Yeah, we talked about it again. What are the situation? There are some people जिसके घर में ऐसा situation होता है, school में situations होता है. There are teachers who are not really progressive in that sense, and they come back and say, गालियां देते रहते हैं. They make sure that you are diffident, you don't gain confidence in yourself. So those are the situations which you should avoid, but many a times you cannot avoid it. I know my next door neighbor, uski ladki, I mean, she was about 5.5 years. Every day school को जाते समय रोते रहती थी, school को जाते समय रोते रहती थी, school को जाते समय रोते रहती थी. I mean, why would she do that? I asked him once, he said कि ये हमेशा ऐसा रोते रहती है. I said, just look at the school. How good or bad the teacher is. There are some people, आप office का ही देख लो. Many of us go to work. How many of us want to go to work tomorrow? Morning में आप उठते हो तो लगता है कि ऑफिस को जाएं. There are some people who want to go to office. चलो आज इतना काम है, ये करना है, वो करना है. They are so enthusiastic in going to office. The office culture, the office atmosphere, environment is so conducive to give your best. But at the same time, there are some offices जहाँ पर अरे यार सवेरा हो गया, अभी जाना पड़ेगा उधर. So there are two different types of office cultures.
Sir, it's been a wonderful session from your side, and I think a lot of questions will keep on popping, but in the interest of time, we'll have to. I'm extremely sorry, but I think it has been a wonderful learning session for all of us, and your views have been really immensely useful and would be very helpful to all the young audience that have heard you today. I would request my colleague Tahir from the Mumbai office to propose a warm vote of thanks to you. Tahir, over to you for the vote of thanks.
Yes, sir. I'm with sir only here in the cabin.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So, yeah. So first of all, I would like to thank sir for a very wonderful and for a very insightful session. Actually, specifically in these times of where professionals and all the students has been facing a lot of trials and tribulations in their daily professional life as well as personal life also, where we do find a difficulty in balancing our personal as well as professional life and also meeting the client expectation, meeting the targets, meeting the internal targets. So a session like this has opened our minds on how to handle the failure. And one thing which I really learned and liked from this session is on to keep our self-esteem very high, actually, because that is the key to overcome the failure. So if we ourselves are not confident on our own ability, so the failure will keep coming, we'll keep facing the failure. So the key which I learned from sir today on this session is how to overcome the failure, how to get up after each failure, or how to get up after each punches which we receive from the life. So that is the key to success. And I mean, just like to say that failure is a part of success. One should not be fearful of the failure, but one should be fearful of not having own self-confidence that I won't be able to get up from the failure. So that is the key learning and takeaway which sir has given us from this session. And I would, be very thankful to sir on this great insightful session, which was a need for the hour. And thank to Huzefa sir also for arranging and helping us with such a great expert faculty on this session. Thank you very much, sir.
I would request everybody to put their hands together, acknowledging the great session given by S. Ranganathan sir today. Sir, really grateful to you for taking out time. So requesting everybody to please give a warm vote of thanks and a loud applause to S. Ranganathan sir.
Thank
So-
you. Thank you very much, Josefa ji.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for calling me here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And there are a lot of compliments that you have already received in the chat box, sir. We'll pass it on to you. There are many people who have congratulated you and they are immensely grateful to you. My colleague Nikhil Kocher from the Delhi office, he's a senior partner of the firm, has complimented you twice. So has Vivek, Aparna, and Krupal Solanki, and many, many more. Mr. Vijay Sachdeva, who's the head of audit of Indorama, has also thanked you immensely. So there are many compliments that you're receiving, sir. So on this positive note, we will end the session. Thank you very much, sir, for joining today. And everybody look forward to the next session of JHS Excellencia, which is on 19th of October. It's again on a very, very interesting subject. The subject is innovation and healthcare in India. And it will be taken up by Mr. Anish Tripathi, who is a first generation startup entrepreneur. So look forward to meeting you all on the 19th of October again. Thank you. Good evening and bye.